Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Let's take a look at that bad boy right there. Very excited about that. I did finish in the top 1200 for the June 2020 season, so very excited about that. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to do two things. First, we're going to talk about the journey that allowed me to get to the Mythic Qualifier, and then second, feel free to stick around for some of those matches that I played in Mythic. Now, unfortunately, I did not capture the very last match, but I do have the match that got me into the 1200s or 1100s, so we will have that for you available. Now, quickly before we get started, as always, I just want to say thank you to you guys. I appreciate your support, your feedback. It has been a wild ride over the last month. That we've added about 100 to 150 people to the channel, so thank you very much. Appreciate that, allowing me to be your deck guide and run through all these awesome top ranked decks that we've been doing, as well as some of the other strategy points of view, the tiering, all that stuff for the month. It has been crazy with all the changes, the bannings, the companion changes, and obviously M21. So very, very wild month. With that said, please feel free to support the channel down over there. Would love to see you around more, whether this is your first time or your 100th. Now with that, let's jump into the journey here, and then we'll go into some of those matches. So here we go. Very, very excited about this. This was very, very wild. So this is probably the most time I've put in a month or in a season, and by far the most matches I've probably ever had as well. I think we're topping in over 600 there, which is pretty crazy. The best piece about that too is that win rate is my collective win rate. So I will probably be making a slight change this season. One, a lot of this runs the kind of videos I've been doing for you about the competitive decks that hurts my ELO score, which ties into this overall rank that's very important for the top 1500, top 1200, and as you progress into Mythic. So may change that, so keep that in mind. Now, quickly here, again, this I was very, very happy with. Getting into Mythic, I think my win rate was a little bit more shy, but as I've talked about before in the previous journey, once I hit Mythic, the decks that I used to get there, and we can sort by most played. So this is going to help. So I actually played Mardu Knights the most, so this was one of the decks that I actually crafted, created, and pulled together early on in the season, and this was before the companion bans, all that, and it had a very, very high win rate, and we can drill into that. 68% was great. I haven't played it in 20 days, as you can see, at least in the competitive side. And again, that has to deal with a lot of the format shifts. 58% on the play, 68% on the draw, 44. So that is something that was big for us to keep in mind. Obviously, everything was almost pretty favorable, minus Jeskai and the sack. And we began to see the Rakdos sack stuff a little bit more, which is one of the reasons why we kind of made that pivot as well. So now let's go back here and look at some of the other decks that we had. Now, the other big one that I played here was this bad boy. So my mono red aggro. So this was the eighth version. I made 9 versions. The 8th version that I pulled together last season. This was the version that I had. 58 wins, 46 losses, 56% win rate. Played that 8 days ago. And the thing about this deck is I really, really enjoyed it, but it was not enough for what I felt within the meta. So I made a couple adjustments within the deck. I brought back Robber. That was not ran in my 5th version here. And then I also added in another Rimrock Knight. So I added 3 Rimrocks in. So I made a couple changes there to make things a little bit more explosive, also to counter hopefully a little bit more in the mirror, plus in the best of one, due to a lot of the changes on the tail end. So the original reason why I didn't have Robber in there was because a lot of the stuff that my opponents had was not going to help me, and it was actually a hindrance to the deck. But as the game changed and the meta shifted towards the end of the season, it was important to switch that up, put Robber back in and start utilizing a lot of the stuff that my competition was using. So that was a key piece to this deck. Now, the other thing that you can look at here, which is huge for me, the deck had a 59% win rate, probably a little higher because there are some gaps in my data because I play in a couple different PCs here, and I don't always have the app running in the background. So, look, the biggest thing and the biggest struggle for me last season was on the draw. I did not have a positive on the draw record. This one was huge. As you can see, I played 8 hours here of it total, all in Mythic. And it really, really helped me accelerate, get back to where I needed to be. As you can see, it was kind of trending down here. I was struggling because I was playing a bunch of different matches. I came all the way down to 92 and came all the way back fairly explosively with some struggles there with some other decks. So very, very crazy. My Mardu Knights deck put me in the top 500, even though overall this shows us hitting the top 600 as one of the highest ranks. Actually, that might have been the top 600. So that was pretty awesome once I jumped in, and a huge portion of that was due to the timing I did the first 10 days and my ELO. So the win rate that I had going into Mythic was very high and continued to stay high at the end of the season. So a lot of that was due to the explosiveness here. Now, one of the things that I do want to cover off here is, I did play Rakdos Sack, did not run well for me. Simic was pretty great. This Gruul deck that I ran that I showed as well was very good. And then obviously we have a few of these other decks, lots of Mardu Knights decks in here as well. So one of the things that I do want to call out is of the last focus, because I saw a lot of stuff on this, especially in the forums on Reddit and things like that, and our spikes, was, is it unfair? Is the matchmaking, personally for me, I am a best of one player. I'm that way due to time. It's a time commitment issue for me. It's hard to actually sit and play one match could be an hour long. It's also why I gravitate towards the aggro stuff for this, for the game and the meta right now. But I think it's fair. Some of you may not be happy about that, but here's my rationale for that. So the reality is, over time with the ELO scoring and the decay is making you need to keep coming back and playing. The meta is shifting. Good players and competitive players should be shifting up their decks, or have a deck that's kind of stable. So as you can see with the mono red deck that I had, has stabilized kind of throughout the season. I did struggle right away once M21 came out. You can clearly see that as well. And my other point here that's important to keep in mind when we talk about the ranking scoring system here is the rush hour piece. So this is a crucial piece in terms of ranking, and what I found, you won't see the last game that I had, but I hit into the top 800s. I went from the match that you'll see with one more match in the 800s. I jumped almost 400 spots, and that had to do with a few different things. Again, it had to do with my win percent, and it had to do with all the other players that were in front of me. And the other thing I'll throw out there is it also had to deal with all the other matches going on. So a lot of times that I'll play matches, and the ones that are longer, you start to lose rank. What's been crazy that I've been seeing and very annoying at the same time is if you get DC'd and you come back and you're, let's say, ranked 1200, and you need to come back. And I had internet issues throughout the last 2 hours of this whole thing. It drove me nuts. And when I would come back, I would already lost like 5 spots. So you have to remember that as you're playing, you're also losing rank. So that's an important piece. And the fierceness of the competition in the last 2 hours is crazy. Now, I had about an hour left. I hit the top 800, and I literally decayed to top like 1,000, 1,100. So that goes to show you how crazy competitive it is at the tail end of this. Now, my whole strategy has always been kind of a couple wins a day to try and stay close to the top 1,500 line, and then the last few days really want to stay up up near the end. Now, this is a big thing to call out too, because if you are not able to play in the last few hours, and this is the only thing I don't think is fair. If you can't play in the last few hours and it's time-based and you're locked in, and unfortunately this is a big thing with video games in general, it's not fair to you if you are a top competitive player and you cannot stay competitive in those last time frame. Now, I don't know what the decay looks like from 1 to 800, but I can tell you based off my experience from the 800 down that it's pretty fierce. So I would expect something similar with the players at a little bit higher there as well. So things to keep in mind. And again, which is unfortunate. So personally for me, I think the rank piece is fine. I understand why they do it. It does allow you, when you begin to get the win rate moving and the ELO moving, a much better opportunity, but it also works against you. And that's one of the things that you got to keep in mind, that if you are in the top 1500 and they ladder you against someone that's 92% and you lose a lot. So it's pretty important to remember that. Now, the last thing that I'll just cover off here as well before I give you some of the real highlights is, again, I was able to do this with a couple different decks. I'd say really 4 key ones. The 2 versions of Mono Red, a few versions of Mardu Knights, Gruul, Umari, and then I also ran this Mono Black one for a while. You can check all those out, and some of those matches that I had in my daily 3. Again, apologies on my end. I did hit in 10 days. I was going to try and produce 20 episodes. However, I just felt, and this is why I want to do this, some of these really hardcore dips, and they happen, right? I just was not personally wanted to share that with you. So that's why I want to get through this and have a success story so that you guys could see it. And know that if you do hit those lows, you can absolutely, like me, hit back into the top 1200 and close in that season. So just remember, again, the time investment, the organic strategy that you're going to evolve over time, and it's probably going to be different this season unless there's some bans that come out. We don't have as much happening, and have fun. That's always a big thing too. So quickly here, as always, thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. So there's a little bit more informative session, me talking at you instead of playing through some things, but please feel free to stick around. I've done some editing for you, and yeah, you can check out some of these awesome rush hour matches that I had. With that said, please, again, feel free to subscribe to the channel down there. Would love to see you around more. Looking forward to the next season, producing some more top-notch content for you guys. So take care, Planeswalkers. Enjoy the matches. Very, very stoked and excited to be here. So this is a culmination of effort for me over the last, I'd probably say since November, December, of really getting into Magic the Gathering online or Arena. Have been a long time online player, long time paper player, and I'll say probably since then I've not hit Mythic twice. So pretty happy to do that and continue to do this stuff. Additionally, I want to thank you guys because you're helping make me better. You're challenging me on my decks. We're talking through these things. I'm playing a lot of top meta decks for you, and it makes us all better. So this definitely would not have been achievable if it wasn't for everyone here. So thank you. Enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe and have a blast, and good luck in season July 2020. Now, hopefully we'll see you around, and if you got questions, please feel free to ask down below in the comments, and stay safe, Planeswalkers, and keep that spark alive. Take care.